solving is something that schools generally don't teach you.
No, I'm not on medication. I'm on weed though, and I feel hella good.
Welcome. So, I've been out of town. I went out of town last weekend. I got some B-roll, so I'll put some B-roll in here while I talk. But, let me turn off my fan. We got invited to go out to Vegas, me and Patrick, with Chi-Chi and advertising dude's family. My mentor doesn't travel, so they got an extra nurse to stay with him for the weekend. And his advertising dude and Chi-Chi, their family is all part of like a family, like an investing thing, and they get together. The whole family meets up and to go over things, and it's like a vacation and I guess like a write-off and stuff. So they were meeting up in Vegas. They tend to do this before like the fall starts. And then there was something about Tupac's trial starting that I didn't understand. But then again, like, I didn't know everybody there. There was a lot of people there. And so that's why I didn't, like, film when I was, like, with them. But, like, there was one part where we went down to Louis Vuitton. I went down with Louis Vuitton and some of the cousins. And we were in there. And it was such a bizarre fucking trip. But, like, we're in Louis Vuitton, and there's, like, a bunch of other, like, people in the store, too. It was busy. And this little girl just screams out of nowhere. Just like, fucking horror film fucking scream. And the grandma takes her outside. Her parents... And, like, I guess aunts and uncles, I don't know. There was, like, the rest of the family stayed in, and the grandma takes her outside. And the little girl is just screaming, and she's pointing at the display, and she is just freaking out. And I'm just like, what the fuck is... First of all, I'm with people I don't know. Second of all, I don't shop in Louis Vuitton. I was wearing a t-shirt and Amazon jeans... And my fucking, my Desert Mermaid, I made myself, purse, okay? No makeup on, nothing, right? Sweaty because we had walked over to meet them at the Bellagio, because they're staying at the Bellagio. And we had walked over to meet them, and then I walked over with So we're in there, and Chi-Chi, nope. She just leans over to me and she goes, she thought the display was for sale. The toys that are the display, she thinks they're for sale. I'm like, what? Because they were speaking in another language. I didn't understand, but I think it was French or something. Chi-Chi understood. She goes, she thought the displays were for sale. Now, Louis Vuitton has, like, it going on right now where it's, like, old-timey, like, toys that are for sale and stuff. It's, like, their theme. The toys are not for display, but it's, like, their theme right now is, like, old-timey toys, and there was a bunch of like old-timey toy displays in there, and then there was some ceramic ones that were in, but they were made to look like little cars or like little, like, I don't know, like little bikes or something. And she's like, she thought the displays were for sale. She wanted one because there were toys. This little girl in Louis Vuitton wanted one of these toys that were a display. And so this little French girl, I guess she's French, I don't know. She could be from Canada. That could have been Quebecois for all I know. But is freaking out because she wants her parents to buy her the toy that is a display in Louis Vuitton. They can't make this shit up. Like, I was just like, what the hell am I experiencing right now? It was a crazy trip, but yeah, after everything that had happened and stuff, advertising dude was just like, you guys should come to Vegas. So we were able to stay at the Jockey Club. The Bellagio was out of our price range, I'll tell you, but we were able to get a deal at the Jockey Club, and they're like snugged up right against the Cosmo. And then we're able to walk on the side right over to it was great. It was super easy. So yeah, it was a good trip. And it was weird to be in Vegas because we were there Monday. It was really weird to be there for the start of the Tupac trial. And I don't know why I don't know why they were in town for that, but one of the things when I was with Chi and advertising dude, and then his dad and his uncles and cousins, I don't know. I don't get it. Their family there was a lot of people there and cousins. So, we were all talking about the Lindsay Clancy case, and somebody pointed out that Lindsay Clancy's, Patrick Clancey is the husband, right? That was married to Lindsay Clancy. And trigger warning, this is the case that, where she unalived her 3 kids, and she's on trial to see if she is guilty by reason of insanity due to her postpartum. It looks like she was failed, which a lot of people are failed by the mental health system. Lots of people. My neighbor was recently, we just lost my neighbor. He was failed by the mental health system. He succumbed to his mental health problems. It's a problem in America. Hayden Panettiere, that was the other thing that happened. That was, Chi was really upset about Hayden Panettiere passing away. But especially women do not get the help that they need in America. And a lot of times when women become new mothers, sometimes husbands are not that great. Now, what they pointed out is Patrick Clancey moved to New York to be with now he's married, right? Now he's married to a woman. Her last name is Danis, okay? We're going to talk about Patrick Clancey's new wife, who is a fertility doctor. Chi, everybody, they all said he was cheating. He was probably cheating with Danis. I don't know the name of the new wife, but her last name is Danis. He was Dr. Danis, the fertility doctor, right? He was probably messing around with her when he was going back and forth to New York. Okay? On his business trips. Turns out, Dr. Danis was at the kids' candlelight vigil with Patrick. So, I mean, that doesn't look good, right? So, Danis, her father is Roy Danis. Roy Danis owns a spirit and liquor company. Okay? Very important. Remember that. Wine and spirits. Alcohol. Okay? An alcohol company. He's a billionaire. Danis. I gotta look it up. Danis is a Freemason Masonic bloodline that goes back to Dionysus, the god of wine and drinking and alcohol and partying. The Danis bloodline is related to believes they are related to the Greek god Dionysus. I know, we're getting conspiracy theory here, but these things I'm going to tell you are things that these Freemasons believe in. And these things I'm going to tell you might not necessarily may mean that the Danis family had anything to do with what's going on with the Clancey family, right? But it's information that has to do with what we talk about all the time here on this channel, okay? We talk about a lot of this on this channel, okay? We talk a lot about gods and shit like this on this channel, okay? We talk a lot about this shit on this channel, okay? So it's related, okay? So Danis, Roy Danis is a Freemason, okay? He's part of the club, okay? He's part of the magic circle. He's very high up because his family believes they can trace their lineage back to Dionysus. That's why he has a wine and spirits company, because Dionysus is the god of wine and partying and getting inebriated and ecstasy and all that shit, right? He is the god of wine, partying, and stuff. And we can get into later the bacchanal things and stuff like that, okay? The other interesting thing about Roy is that Roy sits on the chair for a handicap charity that helps adults and children with handicaps function in society. I wonder if they're going to help Lindsay Clancy now that she's handicapped, right? I don't know. I just was like, what? They were like, that's interesting. You know what's interesting? He sits on a handicap board. Now, where's my notes? Where Danis also believes that New York is a country. To him, he refers to New York and New York City as a country.
I'm Roy Danis. I'm from the country of New York. At least that's how we view the world.
To him, like anything outside is America, and he's in New York. And he said that him and his other billionaire friends refer to New York as a country, which is interesting because think about all the things that, you know, you can't do. Like, there's no filming in court in New York City, and there's no flock cameras in New York City. There's a lot of different things in New York City.
That's how we view the world.
So, the name of his charity is called Viscardi, which means wise and brave. Which, I mean, it goes into all, like, this guy, Chris Viscardi, who started this organization. Now, Viscardi works in the television and film industry, okay? So we got this aspect here, right? He worked on a lot of kid shows. Kablam, Snow Day, The Adventures of Pete and Pete, you know, the brothers, Pete and Pete, whatever that, yeah. So he did a lot of that crap. Yeah, Adventures of Pete and Pete. Where's their name? I thought I saved Danis. Exactly. Meaning. So the last name Danis, now, Danis is also a variant on the name Daniel. So, there's that. But it also, it says here, so it goes, this is just the AI overview. But the name Danis has multiple origins and meanings across different cultures. It most commonly functions as a variant of Daniel. God is my judge. Interesting, right? So, hey, Roy, is God going to judge your daughter for, I mean, if they were, and it looks really bad, Roy, for your daughter, that she was having an affair with a married man, that's adultery, that's bad. You know, technically, according to the Bible and stuff, Lindsay should have been able to just walk away with everything and her children because of the idolatry that, the adultery that your daughter and your new son-in-law did. But, you know, I guess if the billionaire's daughter wants somebody else's man, you know, especially someone who's supposed to be a man to his wife, wife that he's currently married to and taking care of his children and not just standing back there while mom is with the infant and the 2 other kids under 5 standing at a display while he stands in the background like a disinterested you guys saw that where they showed that in court where they showed Patrick Clancey and them at like some, I don't know, they were looking at some educational display, but he's standing in the back like a tourist watching these kids. It was like he was a stranger watching this woman with her 3 kids. And I think the reason why I think Lindsay was timing stuff because she was trying to catch him having an affair. Because she knew. I think the changing of the clothes, he probably met up with his mistress. I don't know. It's just really weird. So, God is my judge. Is God going to judge your daughter, Roy? I think so. I think God is going to double judge your daughter, Roy. I think there's a lot to judge Dr. Danis on, right? Okay. It also can mean devoted to Dionysus. It can also translate to knowledge or learning in Turkic or Tartar contexts. It also can be Hebrew or Slavic. It can also mean God is my judge, or be used to mean given or gift. So these people, I don't know if they have any Jewish bloodline, but if they do, that's just going to make them even more special. But they are of one of those bloodlines that traces itself to the gods, to a tribe, to something special, right? And that's why Roy Danis is a billionaire. That's why his daughter, the fertility doctor, Dr. Danis, got into the school she got into, probably got the grades, got given a golden ride because she was so fucking privileged. How privileged is that to have an affair, alleged affair with a man, and then, you know, oh, the kids are just deleted, the wife's gonna be locked up, so you can just start a new family with him. You don't have to worry about the child custody. You don't have to help him with alimony. You don't have to help him with child support. That's something that Roy Danis would be concerned about for his daughter's perfect life. Because she's a doctor, right? I suspect Roy Danis and his wife and the Danis family is very proud of the fact that Dr. Danis is a doctor. I think it wouldn't look good for Dr. Danis and the Danis's perfect little, alcohol billionaire, company lifestyle, let me do the Peter Mon thing real quick. Hold on. There we are. Perfect little lifestyle that, his little daughter's first marriage is to a man. I hear the word dolt going on. It's going to look bad. She broke up a family. He has 3 kids under 5. The dude has 3 kids under 5. His wife was having mental health issues. And he leaves her for a doctor in New York? And it's her first marriage. I'm thinking it's her first marriage. And starts a new family with her. Dr. Danis and Patrick Clancey. Well, now Dr. Clancey, right? They're going to look like shitheads. They're going to look like assholes. They look like fucking assholes. She looks like a privileged bitch, right? She looks like a privileged bitch. What is his new wife's name? What is this woman's name? Rachel. Wow. You've heard of Rachel and Leah in the Bible, right? Oh, shit. Yeah, so they were the wives of Jacob, right? So Rachel and Leah are the wives of Jacob and Leah. I had to look this up so I don't get it fucked up. So Jacob loved Rachel more than Leah. But he was told by God that he needed to marry, to compensate for Leah being unloved. God made her fertile while Rachel remained barren for a long time. This is weird. This is a weird parallel to draw. That the Rachel and Leah story between Lindsay Clancy and Rachel Danis. Just think of Lindsay Clancy as Leah. To be compensated, God made her fertile while Rachel remained barren, and she was a fertility doctor. The two sisters competed for Jacob's affection. Think of Patrick Clancey as Jacob. Wow. Together, yeah, so... Wow. So I think he had to be with... I think what it was is... He was with Leah, and then he was able to be with Rachel. What happened to... Okay, so yes. That was the one thing that they never want to, point out. But yes, Jacob was technically married to both Leah and Rachel at the same time. Jacob initially worked 7 years to marry Rachel, the younger sister. Okay, so that I did get that right. So he wanted to marry Rachel, but he wasn't allowed to marry Rachel. So God made her barren, so he couldn't, and said, you got to be with Leah first because no one loved Leah. She was unloved, like Lindsay Clancy is unloved, right? Except here in the Bible, polygamy was legal, and they stayed married. This is weird. The second marriage, 1 week after marrying Leah, Jacob was allowed to marry Rachel too. In return, he had to promise to work for Laban for another 7 years. Isn't this just crazy? And that goes back to, a lot of those laws, yeah, they're in the Talmud, but a lot of them were adopted out of Babylonian laws or Canaanite laws, which I'm going to be reading about today. But so yeah. This family is one of the bloodline families. It's one of those families that's in the know, okay? And so we got all that. And I'm telling you that for a family like this, it's not going to look good that their Princess Rachel Danis, who became a specialty doctor in New York, Roy's country of choice.
That's how we view the world.
This is fucked. What happened? But that's just, I wanted to share that. Now, like I said, none of that might mean anything, right? Here's the one thing that one of advertising dudes, I think it was an uncle, pointed out that Havana syndrome, and you've heard of Manchurian Candidates and all that crap, and we watched Disclosure Day together too. I watched Disclosure Day with Chi-Chi in the hotel. That was weird too. So we watched Disclosure Day, and we watched Disclosure Day while the kids were taking a nap. That was weird. I went to Vegas so I could watch a movie in a hotel room while children took a nap. But anyways, the guy in it was using a device to basically talk to people in their head, right? Kind of like, it was like if schizophrenia wasn't real, right? Like if we were able to beam messages and thoughts and talk to someone directly into their head, right? But with a device, right? I don't know. Now, anybody can correct me if I'm correct, but I don't know if she heard voices before the incident happened, but I heard part of the thing saying that her statement was that she heard a voice, a man's voice, directly in her head, tell her what she needed to do, and then said she felt like she went into a disassociated state where she was watching herself as a robot go through and do everything. We just saw a movie by Universal Studios Steven Spielberg put out. Now, Steven Spielberg is interesting. He is, I believe, related to the tribe of Benjamin, which would be the reason for the deer symbols and the cardinals and all that. Those are all little representations of the different tribes that are related to the Jewish tribes, the Hebrew, the Israel tribes of Israel. Apparently, I found out I am somehow related to the Conan priest class that's of the tribe of Levi. What that means for me, I have no fucking idea. But that's why my hair is like got elf locks. Apparently, and then we'll get into the hybrid part too, but this is where a lot of these hybrid creatures and things come from in these lines. They are genetic anomalies. Where these genetic anomalies come from, but like, for example, is Tribe of Benjamin? No, Tribe of Benjamin's a wolf, I believe. I can't remember what tribe that Spielberg is technically from, but he is the same tribe as Barack Obama, I believe. And that's why they're pals, right? That's why they're palsies. And we've talked a lot about all this technology that apparently the the Hebrews have had, the Jewish people have had for thousands and thousands of years. And they just haven't shared it because they've been using it as advantage. There's other people that some of these Jewish people are connected to who live in colonies underground. These are not billionaires that just built a bunker. These are people who built colonies underground about 2,000, 3,000, 4,000 years ago. Thousands of years ago. Okay? At minimum 1,000 years ago. Okay? These are not recent things. Okay? So these colonies essentially are functioning like countries underground in various parts of the world. Okay? Some of these colonies are people that are related to the Jewish people of today. A lot of the tribes out of Europe are related to people that live underground somewhere. Now, the Germanic tribes, a lot of those people have been wiped out. That's why Hitler was going through and getting all that stuff. So yeah, we have that device, right, in that movie. I went down a whole thing. But we have that device, and we know that there's weird devices that the Jewish people have had, right? That these things could possibly exist in we can sit around and talk about this, right? This is something that's never going to get proven in a court of law, but this is something we can talk about that's crazy. This is crazy. This is, mathy, right? But this is something we can talk about because we know there were some people who had electricity back in the day that they figured out that if you hit a nail or you hit something and it vibrates and it hits the quartz crystal with the right copper in it, that it'll create an electricity shock and shock who's ever knocking at the door. That's a story in this. A rabbi who made it where someone knocked on his door and it would shock them, and it was because he figured out how to make a device so when people banged on it, it created a shock, and then they were shocked by the metal at the door. Facts. So, we saw this movie with this device. And the one lady's freaking out because she's got the voices in her head now. And this is like what Lindsay Clancy experienced. There's no proof. We have no proof of anything like this existing at all. We have a little bit of like Havana syndrome, but those people were getting like a buzzing that like brain damaged them. So what was going on here? I don't know. But it's weird. I do think that a billionaire who raised a perfect daughter who became a doctor, a expert fertility doctor, and named her Rachel. Rachel. And then we got Lindsay Clancy, who's basically our Leah, who was unloved like Leah. What the fuck? That's a weird ass parallel. That's just a weird parallel, but when you think of it that way, yeah. And then, two, Roy, Danis being connected with the one TV dude. Now, here's the other thing that was brought up to me this weekend, that a lot of these cable outlets, they were saying that, but really it's like media companies like Court TV, Universal, who owns Comcast, who owns a bunch of like, channels, like, crime channels or news channel networks. This case generates a lot of content for media companies. And that these cases are a form of, money for them. And the sad fact is they can just report on it because it's the news. They can just make a story on it because it's in the public. It's open to the public. And they owe nothing to no one. They owe nothing to the victims' families. They owe nothing. These media companies owe them nothing. They can make a movie. They can make a bunch of 100,000 news clips discussing at ends. Did she do it? Did the husband do it? Going over this over and over again. They can make a, those like on Oxygen Network or Court TV, the shows, like Obsessed, or like the murder series, the Schmurder series that are on Netflix. They can do that. And they can make money. Netflix can make a doc out of this. They don't even have to interview any of the family. They got enough stuff from court. And there's usually somebody in somebody's life who wants their 15 minutes of fame. You see? That's a lot of money. Look at the amount of money that was made out off of Dahmer. Off of carting out Dahmer, going, I don't know why I did it. I don't know why I'm so broken that I murdered all these men and wanted to eat. I have no idea. And he's sitting there, they're conferencing him in with Oprah. And Oprah's sitting there with the dad going, so, what happened there when he was... That helped Oprah. That helped all those networks make money. Look at all the money they made off of that Ted Bundy. All the Ted Bundy series. All the Ted Bundy movies. That's making people money. Money, money, money. And so there is... Sorry about that. My door. So there is a reason... hey... For some of these media companies, Court TV, crime pays. Crime pays. Crime pays. Crime pays for, MSNBC. Crime pays for Netflix. Crime pays for Universal. Crime pays for, Fox and, all of these things. It pays, right? Because it generates content. Look at all the people sitting around watching this trial for the last 2 weeks. Sad. And then even the Dupac. Yeah. Still a good book. And then also, too, law of vibration and things. Like, we don't know what certain technologies are out there. But that's just fringe craziness, right? That's just something fringe crazy to talk about. Maybe in 20 years, that tech will actually come out and we'll look back on this and go, wait a minute. Do you think that existed back then? That's all I think about is like, yeah, there's nothing we can do right now. But the concept of that idea is out there, right? Where'd it come from? And yeah, I mean, Philip K. Dick was even, Philip K. Dick, who wrote books and stuff, even, he was worried that was what was happening to him. That somebody was actually using something to put thoughts or to mess with his brain and make it screw up. So, who the fuck knows, really? We're probably at that part where it's like, we don't know. We're not going to know until the technology is rolled out to us in a way where we can go, wait a minute, hey, look at that, right? Like weather tech. Weather tech's been around since Exodus. Weather tech has been around since Egypt, ancient Egypt, since the pyramids, okay? They were using vibrations to move those blocks into place. They were using sound to do things. Levitation comes from the word Levi, which is the tribe of Levi. Did you know that? That was another thing I learned this weekend. Fascinating, right? So, yeah. So a lot of these symbolisms, too, have to do, like, the birds, and it has to do with their, like, tribes. And, like, believing, like, they're related to a god or a certain tribe that has been chosen by a god. So I also learned they say it's the proper way to say Yahweh's name. I learned another way to say it, but you like say it in a way where you vibrate the bottom, like you can feel it vibrating in your toes, and you can feel it vibrate up your spine and into your head, and it vibrates your entire body. You're supposed to say it in a certain way that vibrates your entire body. It's really interesting. It's really interesting. So, yeah. I'm going to read. We're getting back on track. I am home from Vegas. It was a good trip, though. It was a good trip. Me and Patrick had a good time. Even though it was weird, we still had fun.
You are numb to it. The electric age is changing you.
That is my dinner. I have been working on art. And I'm about to watch a Netflix movie about Sydney Sweeney as a nun who they think gets immaculate conception. But it's not. I said, sounds about right for that woman to be playing a character that is a nun, but somehow magically gets knocked up. Sydney Sweeney's very interesting, isn't she? Hey, Sydney, you should ask your boyfriend Scooter, like a dog that scoots its ass across an industry, that kind of Scooter. You should ask Scooter about how he was selling fake IDs before 9/11. Sydney, you should ask Scooter that. Can you ask him that? If you ever watch this, Sydney, can you arrange to ask Scooter about his stint selling fake IDs before 9/11? Because when I heard multiple stories and then I looked into all of the operations they were doing to kind of solve that before, it's very interesting. It's almost like he sold somebody else out to get immunity. I got questions for your boyfriend, Sydney. So I'm going to watch this movie. I'm having enchiladas with rice and beans. They're shrimp enchiladas. We got takeout tonight. So I'm working on art. This. I watched some of the Lindsay Clancy stuff. Whoa, boy. It's something. But yeah. I still think that those connections are crazy. That's crazy. You know, Roy Danis. I think God might be judging his daughter, though. You know, like that last name, I'm just like, And then the parallels to the Bible. Except, you know, it's just, it's odd. It's just
It is changing your family.
odd.
It is changing your neighborhood.
Welcome to the next day. You love my hair? I am struggling with the humidity today, so I woke up. I'm here. Anyway, so I want to show something to you. Damn, this better not die. So I'm going to show something to you, and then we're going to decode it, okay? Doesn't have to do exactly with what they're talking about, but I'm going to show you how we can figure out somebody, who they are, and their family by some of the things they talk about in just normal conversations, just normal, you know, conversations, just talking about, you know, this, that, and the other, how we can figure out a lot about where somebody is coming from.
I'm just trying to find out where you're coming from.
And remember, just because somebody is a part of one of these bloodline families or is a Freemason doesn't mean they're bad, because there's multiple groups within the Masons, okay? And then there's, you know, we got the Jewish families who trace themselves back to the specific tribes. Now, not all Ashkenazi Jews, not all Jewish people can trace their lineage back to one of these tribes. Like, I suspect Scooter Braun, he can't trace his family lineage, I don't think. And yeah, so I'm going to show you this. Billy Bush. Remember, Billy Bush used to be on, what was it? Access Tonight? Inside, I don't know. You know, one of those, like, studio shows, right? So he's talking to this lady about Lindsay Clancy, but I want you to listen to what he has to say about his brother.
Today down there, I talked, it needs to be more. It has to do with the medical, because you can't,
This is crazy. Dina, I hate to do this because nobody, you know, my brother lives, he was from Cambridge, Boston, one of the most brilliant guys in the world. He started a healthcare company called Athena Health, which is a really big company. He started that in Watertown. Anyway, they sold it. He went on, he started a new company called Zeus Health. And this is exactly what they do, because for this exact reason, is to make sure that every doctor from every walk of life is on the same damn page. And that's all Zeus is one, you know, when you go to the doctor's office and you fill out the form and it's...
We don't even have to listen anymore. And check this out. His last name is Bush for a reason. I think Billy here is of one of the tribes, and that he could probably trace his family lineage back to one of the tribes here. Doesn't mean he could be a good person. Look, like, that's a good thing, actually. Now, you heard that, right? Athena, let me flip you guys back around here. Woo! Athena was the goddess of wisdom. We talked about her. Wisdom in, like, you know, like war and stuff, but a lot of people use her just as wisdom. One of the things I asked about, you know, the Bohemian Grove thing and all that, one of the things that I've learned about in the Babylonian studies is that there was a period of time where people were learning how to assign entities to an idol. And so, like, you could make your own god, technically, and then do stuff to dedicate things to that god or that entity. That's something a whole nother day. But so Athena, wisdom. So it's like trying to infuse wisdom into healthcare. And a lot of Jewish, traditionally, in Jewish culture and Jewish history that I've been reading about, Jewish people tend to go into doing, let me switch this battery. There we are. Okay. So Jewish people in history tended to be doing medical stuff like doctors, or they tended to be into gems, jewelry, gold, because those were things that were easy to carry with you. And medical knowledge was something that you can take knowledge in your brain anywhere you go, and no one can take it from you. And then like gems or like golden things, you can hide it and carry it easily, and nobody will know. So that was why a lot of times this was something that Jewish people traditionally, that's why you see them as doctors, and lawyers was also because of the, Talmud and having to learn all this stuff. But that's why traditionally you would see them be these things, is because they were easy to do. And for the last thousands of years, Jewish people didn't have a homeland like German people do. Like, let's say, if you are Swedish, you're from Sweden, right? If you are Italian, you're from Italy, right? If you are Czech, you're from Czech, you're Russian, you're from Russia, right? You're Turkish, you're from Turkey, right? And before Austria and Bohemian was a country, before that was taken away. So where am I going with this? I just had a total the Jewish people. So the Jewish people did not have a homeland. Okay, and then you can get into the whole them being promised by God in the Bible to have a homeland eventually, which, then we can get into the whole then England gave them the land so that they could start the state of Israel. And, at one point they did have land, but then it was taken, in the past, 1,000 years ago. So there's been this whole, it's crazy, right? It's crazy. It's a whole thing. It's a thing, right? So, yeah. Where was I going with this? But yeah, so we can tell a lot by just Billy Bush sitting there with the sign behind him, right? I know, I went through a whole tangent and stuff, but that's what we do over here. I just talk. I am the older lady. I will be the older lady that's kind of crazy, but people love hearing her stories. And then one day, maybe 10, 20, 30 years from now, something will come out and you'll be like, that old lady on YouTube, that crazy lady that we all said had psychosis. That lady we all said needed to be locked the fuck up. She was onto something there. She wasn't always coherent, but she had something there. There was something there. Right? Like I said, you can take what I talk about here, go research it, and make a video. And deep dive into it further and make a nice fancy video. That's one of the things my mentor is liked. He says he can tell when people have watched the one video, my Eyes Wide Shut video that we all did, where I was just I'd have made other videos off of it. And that's the whole point, is for them to take that spark and make a fire. Not to just replicate my spark and be like, look guys, I made a spark. And it's wait a minute, that is my spark from over here. And that spark is weak ass. You're supposed to take a spark and make a fucking forest fire, not just go, look guys, I made the spark. No, I wanted you to be like, look, guys, I made a forest fire. No one gives a shit where the forest fire came from. They're just like, whoa, that's a fire. Damn. Damn. Bill is Andre Blazal? Salvador, the Hungarian guy, was his father. Raw. Yeah. So, I think I'm going to end the vlog because it's probably long and I want to add in some stuff. But last weekend was crazy. It was crazy. But I'm back, so yeah. Remember, guys, you matter. You matter. You are a person, and you matter. You might be a hybrid like me, or a fae folk, and we're going to get into that, because I got to do some more reading and stuff, but we're going to get into the different bloodlines, and werewolves, and where that comes from, because it's a whole thing, too. We've talked about hybrids and things, but we're now getting into the muck of it, you know, like, we have to kind of understand the surface so that when we get to the meat of it, we're mature enough. And I think we're there. Maybe. I don't know. I should probably ask someone who knows more. But, yeah. Anyways, so. I talked to my mentor this morning. He says hi. He says hi. The Lindsay Clancy stuff, he doesn't trust. He says there's just too many people that were working the system that was supposed to be treating her. And ethically, that wasn't okay. Because the mother-in-law was a nurse working at, I think, McLean Hospital, too? Or one of the hospitals that she went to the ER for. And then, like, came down to see her and stuff. And it was just like, I'm like, what? It just seemed like there was just too many people that worked the system or were on the other side of the system that was supposed to be treating her. I don't know. And then the fact that Karen Reed, Massachusetts is a weird state, and apparently, you know, it's like, if you're rich, you know, you get to do whatever you want there, you know. I don't know. But anyways, you matter. You're a person. You matter. You deserve healthcare like a billionaire does. None of us deserve to be thrown away. Like, apparently Lindsay Clancy's being thrown away, it looks like. But, oh, my mom, did you get this? Yes. Thumbs up. Yeah. I know, I can't end this vlog. It's like the vlog that never ends. Okay. All these stars are yours because you matter. You're a person. Even if you're a hybrid or a werewolf, just be good. Just be good. Just do good things. The more we know, the more we don't know, right? And don't freak out at Louis Vuitton if you can't buy the toy in the display. I'll see you next time. Love you.
Problem solving is something that schools generally don't teach you. You know, a lot of people don't have a good generalized approach to problem solving. They're not thorough, don't consider all the possibilities, prepare themselves with the right information. If you can develop a kind of generalized approach to problem solving, it's surprising how it helps you in anything.
I don't think. I know.
Every 4 computers now have primary control of critical vehicle functions.